The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport of the Aurelian throne ship, a shimmering river of light flowing through the darkness of space. Humanity had never seen anything like it. Earth's brightest diplomats and scientists had been preparing for this moment for decades, yet nothing could truly capture the enormity of standing in the presence of Queen Zyra. She was said to be centuries old, her mind sharper than any human could imagine, her presence commanding without effort. And now, Elias Ward, the human envoy, stood just a few steps away, feeling the weight of every eye upon him. The ship's interior was vast and alive. Bioluminescent walls pulsed softly, responding to the Queen's thoughts. It was as if the ship itself were her body, breathing and thinking in tandem with her. Guards, both human and Aurelian, stood rigidly along the edges of the hall. The air was filled with a quiet hum of energy, an invisible force that seemed to vibrate with power beyond comprehension. Elias had read about the Aurelians, studied their culture, and trained for this moment, yet none of it prepared him for the reality of it. Queen Zyra sat upon her throne, an elegant figure sculpted from living crystal, her eyes glimmering with a depth that made Elias feel almost naked under her gaze. She observed him carefully, noting every twitch, every subtle movement. The room seemed to shrink as she regarded him, the distance between them charged with tension. Diplomats often spoke of respect, of protocol, of careful negotiation. But this was different. Something stirred in her, a quiet curiosity, tinged with an emotion she rarely allowed herself to feel. Elias, for his part, was aware of the unusual intensity of her attention. He had seen interest in the eyes of other species before, but nothing like this. It was not suspicion, not mere curiosity, it was recognition. And it unsettled him. He swallowed, reminding himself that he was a human, that he had survived more than most could imagine. Yet, even the most disciplined human mind could not fully prepare for the feeling of being observed so completely. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Queen Zyra's voice cut through the silence, precise and melodic. Every word carried weight, every syllable a test. The assembled diplomats and guards froze, uncertain whether this was rhetorical or a genuine question. Elias met her gaze steadily, understanding that this was not a test of strength, but a test of truth. He inhaled slowly, choosing his words carefully. "Because you are the mother of my child." The statement echoed in the hall, leaving a silence that seemed to stretch into eternity. Human and Aurelian alike stared at him, disbelief written plainly on every face. Even Queen Zyra's expression shifted, the unflinching calm of centuries wavering for the first time in the presence of another being. "You speak nonsense," she said, her tone sharp but not angry. "Humans and Aurelians cannot." Elias interrupted gently, his voice steady. "I know what it sounds like. I know it is impossible. But I am not lying, Your Majesty. The child exists, even if neither of us fully understands how." The Queen leaned forward slightly, the crystalline structure of her throne catching the light in unexpected ways. "Explain," she demanded, her voice less commanding now, and more curious, tinged with the faintest trace of fear. "Explain how this could have happened." Elias nodded, his mind racing through decades of classified missions, experiments, and observations. "Years ago, humans began studying your psionic energy," he said. "We knew it was powerful, and we believed it could be measured, understood. We never expected, well, this. During a remote observation, your consciousness unknowingly connected with mine. It was brief, a fraction of a moment, but it was enough. Something within us resonated, creating a link that neither species had ever anticipated." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "A resonance? That is your explanation? You suggest that this connection produced a child?" Elias nodded. "Not a child in the traditional sense. It is a hybrid consciousness, forming slowly, developing within you in ways your science cannot yet detect. It is human and Aurelian at the same time, strong, intelligent, adaptable. I can feel it, even now, because it is linked to both of us." Queen Zyra sat back, processing the words. Her entire life had been guided by logic, by the certainty of cause and effect, and yet, here was a human, standing before her, speaking of impossibilities that somehow felt true. The thought unsettled her deeply, yet also sparked a strange sense of awe. Humans were fragile. Yes, their bodies easily broken. But their minds were unpredictable, resourceful, and relentless. Perhaps it was this very unpredictability that had allowed such a miracle to occur. Your claim, she said slowly, if true, threatens everything we know about biology, about evolution, about the laws that govern the universe. How can I trust it? Elias met her gaze evenly. Because it is true. I have nothing to gain from lying. And soon, if it continues to develop, you will feel it for yourself. It will change you, even as it grows. It is not a threat unless you make it one. It is a bridge between our species, a proof of what humans can accomplish when we connect, adapt, and endure. A low hum rose through the throne ship, vibrating gently underfoot. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it carried the resonance of life itself. Queen Zyra reached out instinctively, her hand hovering just above the surface of the throne. The hum grew, synchronizing with the rhythm of her thoughts. She could feel a presence, something alive and aware within her that was not entirely her own. The recognition of that presence was chilling and beautiful all at once. The court was silent, every diplomat and guard holding their breath. Some whispered to one another in hurried tones, questioning everything they had learned about humans and Aurelians alike. Others simply stared, unable to comprehend the implications of what they had just witnessed. Elias took a cautious step forward. I understand your fear, he said softly. I understand that this changes everything you know. But humans, we endure. We survive. And sometimes, we create the impossible without even realizing it. That is what is happening here. That is what makes humans remarkable. The Queen's crystalline eyes flickered, her mind grappling with centuries of certainty. She had ruled the Dominion for longer than most could imagine, guided by logic, strategy, and experience. And yet, nothing in her life had prepared her for the undeniable truth she felt now. The child existed, and it was growing within her, linked to a human who stood defiantly before her. Finally, after what seemed like hours, but was only moments, she spoke again. This hybrid, it is part of you, part of me, and you claim it will grow, will live? Yes, Elias said without hesitation. It is alive, and it will be powerful, because it carries both human adaptability and Aurelian intelligence. But it will also carry our choices, our ethics, our understanding. That is why I am here, to ensure it develops in a way that honors both our species. For the first time in centuries, Queen Zyra's expression softened. She did not fully understand the implications of what she had just heard, but she felt a strange hope, a cautious optimism that humanity could bring something new to her empire, something that logic alone could never create. Guards, she said finally, her voice calm but firm, do not detain him. Instead, ensure he is observed. Every step he takes, every word he speaks, must be recorded. I must understand this. Child, I fully before I make any further decisions. Elias bowed his head, acknowledging her authority and her wisdom. As you command, Your Majesty. The hum of the throne ship grew softer, more harmonious, as if acknowledging the decision. For the first time, Elias felt a flicker of hope, not just for the human race, but for something greater. The future was uncertain, yes, but it was alive with possibilities that neither species had yet imagined. And as he stood there, under the gaze of the Queen who was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, he realized that the journey ahead would test everything humanity had ever known about courage, ingenuity, and the power of connection. The impossible was no longer theoretical. It had arrived, and its heartbeat echoed within the vessel that carried both hope and fear across the stars. The first step had been taken. The story of humanity, of Queen Zyra, and of the child that defied the laws of nature had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Days passed on the throne ship. Yet the air remained tense. Guards watched Elias closely, noting every movement, every subtle gesture, yet none could fully understand the connection he seemed to share with Queen Zyra. It was not just a matter of presence, it was something deeper, an invisible thread linking them, something that transcended the barriers of species and biology. The human envoy moved carefully, aware that every word, every glance, could carry immense consequences. The queen, for her part, avoided direct confrontation, but she observed him constantly. Her mind was a whirl of calculations and questions, but the strange awareness of the child growing within her never left. She had spent centuries mastering logic, predicting outcomes, and controlling her emotions. Yet something about this situation left her unsettled. She could feel the consciousness within her, stirring, reacting to the presence of Elias as if it recognized him, even without her understanding how. Finally, unable to contain her curiosity, she summoned Elias to a private chamber within the ship, a space filled with soft light and quiet energy. No guards were present, though the walls themselves seemed to hum faintly. Responding to her thoughts, she watched him as he entered, studying his posture, his calm demeanor. "You speak of a child," she began, her voice steady but curious. "Yet you do not explain how it exists. You say it is a hybrid consciousness, forming within me. How can that be? How can your species interact with mine in such a way?" Elias stepped closer, his eyes meeting hers with unwavering focus. "It is because humans are different, Your Majesty. Our biology, our minds, and our adaptability are unlike anything you have encountered. We are fragile, yes, but we are also resilient. Our brains can form connections in ways that are unpredictable, that even your science cannot anticipate. When your consciousness touched mine, even unknowingly, it created a resonance. That resonance gave rise to something new, a hybrid being that draws from both our species." The queen's gaze narrowed. "So, this child, it is not born like a human, nor like an Aurelian. It exists within me, developing, growing. And you say it is alive?" "Yes," Elias said. "Alive, aware, and linked to both of us. It is learning from you as it grows, and it is learning from me through the connection that started it all. Eventually, it will manifest fully. But for now, it exists in a state we cannot fully define. It is both human and Aurelian, both logic and unpredictability. And it is unique." The queen paced slowly, her movements precise, her mind racing. "I have ruled this empire for centuries. I have faced threats from every corner of the galaxy, challenges that tested the limits of my knowledge and power. And yet, this is unlike anything I have encountered, a being that defies all understanding, born not of biology but of connection and thought. How can I control it? How can I prepare for what it might become?" Elias studied her carefully. "You cannot control it in the way you control armies or planets. That is not the point. It is not a weapon, not a tool. It is a new form of life, and it will grow according to what we teach it, according to the choices we make. But we must act carefully. Others may see it as a threat, as a violation of natural law. They may try to destroy it before they understand it." The queen stopped pacing and turned to face him fully. "You speak as though you understand the consequences. Yet you are human. You have no idea what powers I command, what the Dominion can do. If this child grows and others discover it, there will be panic, fear, perhaps even war. Are you prepared for that?" Elias nodded. "I am. Because humans have always faced the impossible and survived. We endure because we adapt. And this child, it represents the best of both our species. It is proof that we can rise above fear, above prejudice, and create something extraordinary together." For a moment, the room was silent, save for the faint hum of energy that seemed to echo from the walls themselves. The queen's mind was a storm of logic and emotion, trying to reconcile centuries of certainty with the impossible truth before her. She had always believed that knowledge and preparation were the keys to survival. Yet here was a human, standing calmly in the eye of uncertainty, offering guidance for something that defied comprehension. "You speak with confidence," she said finally, "as if you have already faced the consequences. Tell me, human, why should I trust you? Why should I believe that you are capable of guiding this hybrid life form safely?" Elias smiled faintly, though the seriousness of the moment did not leave his face. "Because humans survive. Not because we are strong, but because we are persistent, because we think, because we learn from every failure and adapt. I have faced dangers that would break most beings. I have survived them because I refuse to give up. This child is no different. It requires guidance, protection, and understanding. And I am here to provide that." The queen considered his words, her mind weighing every possible outcome. She had ruled with precision for centuries, guided by reason and foresight. Yet now, she faced a situation that logic alone could not solve. Perhaps this was what humans were capable of, an unpredictability that could bring about change in ways she had never imagined. She had always valued adaptability, but never had she encountered it in such a raw, potent form. "Very well," she said at last. "You will remain under observation, but I will allow you to interact with the child, carefully. You will guide its growth as best you can, and I will learn from you, and from it." Elias inclined his head, a quiet acknowledgement of the trust she had placed in him. "I will do everything I can, Your Majesty." Over the next days, they began the delicate process of understanding the hybrid consciousness. The queen spent hours meditating, reaching inward to sense the child's presence. Elias guided her, explaining the subtle ways human consciousness could interact with psionic energy. Together, they discovered that the child was not static. It responded to thought, emotion, and intention. When the queen focused on calm, logical patterns, the consciousness mirrored her discipline. When Elias brought his human creativity and intuition into the connection, the child adapted in ways that were unpredictable, sometimes startling, but always remarkable. The more they interacted, the more the queen began to understand the uniqueness of humanity. Humans did not rely solely on strength or intellect. They relied on persistence, on the ability to improvise, to endure, and to overcome. It was this combination that had created the hybrid consciousness, something the Dominion had never seen and could not yet comprehend. Yet not everyone in the Dominion was as understanding. Whispers began to circulate among the court and the scientific advisors. Some nobles feared the child's existence, seeing it as a contamination of their bloodline, a threat to centuries of carefully maintained order. Others argued that the child represented evolution, a bridge to a future where humans and Aurelians could coexist and even thrive together. The debates were heated, and tensions ran high. One night, Elias sat with the queen in a private chamber, the stars outside the viewport reflecting in her eyes. "There are those who will try to harm it," he said quietly, "those who cannot see beyond their fear. We must be vigilant." The queen nodded. "I understand. I have faced threats before, but never one like this. This child is both my responsibility and yours. And yet, it feels different. I do not fully comprehend it, yet I feel its presence as surely as I feel my own thoughts. Perhaps this is the beginning of something new, something humanity has always promised but never fully realized." Elias smiled faintly. "Yes, humans have always reached for the impossible. And sometimes, the impossible reaches back." In the following weeks, the hybrid consciousness grew more aware, more responsive. It began to influence subtle systems within the throne ship, stabilizing energy flows and enhancing the psionic resonance of the vessel. Scientists recorded these phenomena with awe, noting that the child's influence was unlike anything previously documented. It was not just alive. It was intelligent, adaptable, and capable of learning at an astonishing rate. Through it all, Elias and the Queen worked together, building a connection of trust and understanding. They discovered that cooperation between human intuition and Aurelian logic could produce results neither species could achieve alone. And in that discovery, the Queen began to see a future that was both uncertain and extraordinary. A future where humans were not merely fragile observers, but essential partners in shaping the destiny of the stars. As Part 2 drew to a close, the whispers of fear and opposition continued in the court, but the bond between Elias, the Queen, and the hybrid consciousness had solidified. The child was growing, and with each passing day, it became clearer that its existence was not an accident or a threat. It was a promise of what could be achieved when different minds, different species, and different worlds came together. And though the galaxy had yet to understand it, the future was already beginning to take shape within the heart of the throne ship, alive with possibilities that were entirely human and entirely extraordinary. Tension in the Dominion grew with each passing day. The hybrid consciousness had begun to manifest more clearly, and though the Queen and Elias worked closely to guide it, whispers of fear and doubt spread like wildfire among the nobles. Some saw the child as a threat, an unnatural anomaly that could destabilize the empire. Others, braver or more curious, saw it as a new beginning, a bridge between humans and Aurelians. Yet the court's divisions threatened to erupt into open hostility, and Elias knew that mere observation was no longer enough. One evening, as the twin moons of an orbiting planet reflected pale light across the throne ship's windows, the Queen called Elias to her chambers. She appeared tense, her usual calm replaced by a flicker of uncertainty that no human had ever witnessed before. The child's presence pulsed faintly within her, a gentle vibration that neither of them could ignore. "Something is stirring," she said, her voice low and deliberate. "I feel it moving more strongly. The court grows restless, and some may act before we are ready. We cannot allow the child to be harmed. Elias." "Not now. Not ever." Elias nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. "We need a plan. The child is growing, becoming aware of its surroundings, even sensing the intentions of others. If anyone attempts to interfere, it may react in ways we cannot predict. We must be ready to protect both you and it." The Queen studied him silently. "And how do you propose we do that?" "The court is vast, and those who oppose us are many. Even a single act of aggression could trigger chaos. How can we guard against something we cannot yet fully control?" Elias took a deep breath. "By being unpredictable, by thinking like humans, we cannot rely solely on logic or force. We must anticipate fear. Yes, but also opportunity. We must act before they do. And we must make sure the child is never vulnerable." The Queen's eyes glimmered with a mix of concern and curiosity. For centuries, she had relied on strategy, intelligence, and planning. Now, she realized that human unpredictability could be a strength, not a liability. And in that realization, she began to understand why Elias had been chosen as the envoy, why humanity was capable of achieving the impossible. Over the next days, the Queen and Elias worked together in secret. They observed the nobles, listening to their whispers, studying their movements, and identifying those who might pose a threat. They established safe zones within the throne ship where the child's presence could be nurtured and protected. They used subtle psionic signals, hidden from the eyes of the court, to guide the consciousness and maintain control. One night, as the child's awareness grew, an unexpected event occurred. A faction of nobles, impatient and fearful, attempted to confront the Queen directly. They stormed the chamber, their intentions clear: to seize control and eliminate what they believed was an abomination. The room filled with tension as the Queen rose, her form radiating calm authority. Elias moved instinctively, positioning himself between the Queen and the intruders. He did not fight with weapons or force. He relied on human ingenuity, anticipating their movements, using the environment to his advantage, guiding their actions without them even realizing it. Doors closed automatically, corridors shifted subtly, and the attackers found themselves disoriented, trapped by the child's psionic influence amplified by their own fear. The hybrid consciousness reacted to the danger instinctively. Its presence, linked to both the Queen and Elias, extended outward, stabilizing energy flows, disrupting systems, and creating barriers that slowed the attackers. Though they did not understand it, they felt the power of something greater than themselves, something alive and aware, guiding events with precision. As the confrontation reached its peak, the Queen spoke, her voice carrying both authority and calm. "Leave now, and return only with respect. You interfere with forces beyond your understanding." Her words, amplified by the child's influence, resonated through the chamber, leaving no room for argument. The nobles hesitated, their aggression faltering in the face of a presence they could not comprehend. Elias remained close, sensing every movement, every shift in energy. He knew that humans did not always rely on raw strength, but on adaptability, intuition, and courage. By combining his instincts with the Queen's authority and the child's psionic abilities, they had turned a potential disaster into a controlled outcome. The attackers retreated, wary and unsettled, leaving the Queen and Elias alone once more. After the confrontation, the Queen allowed herself a moment of reflection. She had faced threats before, but never one that involved something as unpredictable and extraordinary as this hybrid consciousness. Yet she could not deny the effectiveness of Elias's methods, nor the undeniable bond forming between the human envoy, the child, and herself. She realized that this was more than survival, it was a demonstration of what humans could accomplish when guided by determination and ingenuity. Elias approached her cautiously. "It is growing stronger," he said quietly. "It is learning from us, from the danger it encountered, and from the ways we respond. It is becoming aware of itself, and it will soon be able to act with purpose, rather than instinct." The Queen nodded, her eyes focused on the soft glow emanating from within her. "Yes, I feel it. I sense its awareness expanding. And with that awareness comes responsibility. We must guide it carefully, teaching it not only to survive, but to understand the choices it makes and the consequences that follow." Over the following weeks, they developed a rigorous routine. Elias taught the child concepts of human problem-solving, ethics, and creativity, while the Queen guided it in logic, discipline, and Aurelian's psionic mastery. Together, they observed the child's rapid growth, noting how it integrated lessons from both species seamlessly. It was neither fully human nor fully Aurelian, but something new, a synthesis of adaptability and intelligence that could shape the future of both worlds. The court remained a constant challenge. Some nobles continued to plot, unable to reconcile their fear with the child's existence. Others, curious and cautious, began to see the potential benefits. Diplomats and scientists from other species began to arrive, drawn by rumors of the extraordinary hybrid. Each new visitor brought opportunities and challenges, requiring Elias and the Queen to remain vigilant, adaptable, and cooperative. One day, a senior Aurelian scientist approached the Queen with a proposal. "If we study the child further, we could understand the mechanisms of its creation, perhaps even replicate them. This could revolutionize our understanding of psionics and biology." The Queen considered the suggestion carefully. "It is true that studying the child could advance knowledge, but it is also dangerous. We must balance curiosity with caution. The child is alive, aware, and capable of suffering. It is not an experiment, it is a being." Elias supported her decision. "Exactly. Humans understand the value of life, the importance of responsibility. Knowledge without respect is meaningless. We guide, we protect, and we teach, not exploit." Despite their precautions, the political situation remained volatile. A faction within the Dominion, fearful of change, sought to undermine the Queen's authority. They whispered of rebellion, spreading rumors that the child was a weapon, a threat to all Aurelians. Tensions escalated to the point where Elias knew that further confrontation was inevitable. One evening, as the throne ship traversed the orbit of a distant star, the rebellion struck. Armed with both technology and psionic skill, they attempted to seize control, intending to remove the Queen and destroy the child. The corridors of the ship became a battlefield of strategy, quick thinking, and human ingenuity. Elias moved through the ship with remarkable speed and precision. Unlike the disciplined Aurelians, who relied on training and protocol, he relied on improvisation, intuition, and adaptability. He anticipated the attacker's moves, using the ship's architecture to his advantage, herding them into traps without firing a single weapon. The hybrid consciousness, sensing danger, extended its influence, stabilizing energy systems, creating barriers, and subtly manipulating the environment. At the heart of the conflict, the Queen stood firm, her mind radiating authority, guiding the psionic energy of the ship in tandem with the child. She was no longer simply a ruler. She was a partner in an unprecedented collaboration between human, Aurelian, and hybrid. As the battle reached its climax, Elias and the Queen confronted the leaders of the rebellion. Their efforts combined, human unpredictability and Aurelian discipline, supported by the child's psionic awareness, created an overwhelming advantage. The rebels, realizing they were outmatched not by force alone, but by the unity and ingenuity of three minds, working as one, retreated. In the aftermath, the Queen addressed her court. Her voice, calm yet commanding, carried across the chamber. "We have faced danger and fear, and yet we endure. This child, this being that has emerged from the unexpected, is not a threat. It is a testament to what can be achieved when different species work together. When courage and intellect meet adaptability and creativity. Humanity is not weak. It is remarkable, and we must learn from it." Elias watched as the court absorbed her words. Some remained skeptical, but many began to understand. Humans, once considered fragile and insignificant, had demonstrated resilience, ingenuity, and courage that even the most disciplined Aurelians could admire. And through the child, they had proven that true strength lay not in physical power, but in the ability to adapt, to think, and to endure. That night, the Queen and Elias stood together, reflecting on the events of the past weeks. The hybrid consciousness pulsed faintly, a soft glow that illuminated the chamber. It had learned much, yet still had far to grow. But one thing was clear. It was alive, aware, and extraordinary. "We have won this battle," the Queen said quietly. "But the future will bring more challenges. The child will face the galaxy as it grows, and humanity will play a role in shaping its destiny. Are we ready for that?" Elias placed a hand gently on the railing, gazing out at the stars. "We are. Humans survive because we face the impossible, because we endure. And this child is the beginning of something extraordinary. Together, we can guide it, protect it, and teach it to be the bridge between our worlds." The Queen nodded, feeling a sense of hope she had not known in centuries. Humanity was unpredictable, yes, but it was also capable of extraordinary courage and insight. And in that unpredictability lay the key to the survival and evolution of both their species. As the throne ship drifted through the endless expanse of space, the bond between human, Queen, and hybrid strengthened. They had faced fear, rebellion, and uncertainty, and they had endured. The child continued to grow, and with it came the promise of a future shaped not by fear, but by ingenuity, courage, and understanding. For the first time, the Queen allowed herself to hope that humanity, fragile and unpredictable though it was, might not only survive in the galaxy but help shape it in ways no one had yet imagined. And as Elias stood by her side, he realized that the story of the hybrid, of humanity, and of the Queen was far from over. It was only just beginning. The throne ship drifted silently through the stars. Yet tension lingered like a shadow over the Dominion. The rebellion had been crushed, but the political currents beneath the surface had not disappeared. Many still whispered in fear, doubting the Queen's wisdom, questioning the hybrid consciousness, and wondering about humanity's true intentions. Despite the outward calm, Elias knew that the real challenge was only beginning. The hybrid consciousness had grown significantly, its awareness expanding beyond anything the Queen or Elias had anticipated. It could interact with systems, perceive psionic energy, and respond to complex stimuli with remarkable speed. Yet it was still learning, still developing, and still vulnerable to misunderstanding. Protecting it was no longer merely a matter of physical security. It required guidance, diplomacy, and strategy. Queen Zyra summoned Elias to the observation chamber, a vast room where the stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport. The child's presence pulsed faintly within her, a rhythmic glow that mirrored the heartbeat of the ship itself. She had grown accustomed to feeling it, but the realization of its power still filled her with awe. "It is stronger than I expected," she said quietly, her voice thoughtful. "I can feel it thinking, learning, adapting. And yet, I sense that it also feels the fear around it. Some in my court still view it as a threat." Elias nodded, his gaze steady. "That is inevitable. Change is always feared. But the child is learning from us, from the way we act and respond. It senses courage and calm, creativity and logic. We must continue to guide it, teaching it not only to survive, but to understand its purpose and its responsibility." The queen studied him, her crystalline eyes reflecting the distant stars. Purpose and responsibility. These are human concepts. Yet I feel their truth. Perhaps this is what makes your species remarkable, Elias. You survive not only through strength but through understanding, through adaptation. He smiled faintly. We endure because we must. And sometimes, the impossible teaches us the most important lessons. This child, it is the culmination of that lesson. It is a bridge, a new beginning, but we must protect it, always. The weeks passed in a careful balance of training, observation, and diplomacy. Elias taught the hybrid consciousness human concepts, problem-solving, empathy, creativity, and resilience. The queen guided it through logic, strategy, and psionic mastery. Together, they observed the child's rapid development, noting how it integrated lessons seamlessly from both species. It was not human or Aurelian alone, but something entirely new, extraordinary in its potential. Despite these efforts, whispers of rebellion persisted. A faction of nobles, fearful of losing influence, conspired in secret. They viewed the child as a threat to their authority, a symbol of change they could not control. Elias and the queen knew that confrontation was inevitable. The challenge was not only to protect the child but also to unite the court, to turn fear into understanding and mistrust into cooperation. One day, the queen called a council meeting, inviting the nobles, scientists, and diplomats to witness something unprecedented. The hybrid consciousness, responding to her command, manifested visibly for the first time. A soft glow filled the chamber, forming a figure both human and Aurelian, delicate yet undeniably powerful. It did not speak with words, but its presence conveyed awareness, intelligence, and emotion. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Some recoiled in fear. Others leaned forward in awe. The queen addressed them with calm authority. This being is neither threat nor weapon. It is proof that humanity, when guided by wisdom and courage, can achieve the impossible. It represents the potential for unity between our species, the promise of evolution and understanding. We must not fear it. We must guide it, protect it, and learn from it. Elias stepped forward, his presence steady and reassuring. Humans have always survived by adapting, by enduring, and by creating solutions where others see only obstacles. This child is no different. It learns from us, and it will grow to become a force for good not by conquest or domination, but through understanding and cooperation. That is the power of humanity. For the first time, many in the court began to see the truth. Fear lingered. Yes, but awe and respect began to outweigh it. Even those who had opposed the queen's decisions could not deny the intelligence, adaptability, and awareness of the hybrid consciousness. It was alive. It was remarkable. And it was undeniably the future. The demonstration marked a turning point. The rebels, realizing their influence had waned, retreated into silence. Diplomats and scientists, previously skeptical, began to engage with the hybrid consciousness. asking questions, proposing experiments, and seeking understanding. The court, once divided, began to see the potential for collaboration, for a future where humans and Aurelians could achieve greatness together. Yet even as the court began to adjust, Elias and the queen knew that challenges remained. The child's development was far from complete, and the galaxy beyond the Dominion was full of unknowns. Other species, observing these events, might see humanity as a threat, or worse, as a tool to exploit. Preparation, vigilance, and careful guidance would be essential. One evening, as the stars shimmered beyond the viewport, the queen and Elias stood together, watching the soft glow of the child within her. It pulsed gently, a living rhythm that seemed to mirror the heartbeat of the galaxy itself. "Do you believe it is ready?" the queen asked quietly. Elias studied the glow, sensing its awareness and growth. "It is learning faster than we could have imagined. It understands fear and courage, logic and creativity, loyalty and responsibility. It is ready in ways we cannot even fully comprehend, and with our guidance, it will become a bridge, a symbol of what humans and Aurelians can achieve together." The queen nodded, a rare smile crossing her face. "Yes. Perhaps this is the beginning of a new era, one not defined by fear, conquest, or power alone, but by understanding, adaptability, and courage. Humanity has shown me that even the impossible can become reality when guided by wisdom." Elias placed a hand gently on the railing, looking out at the stars. "We endure because we must, but more than that, we endure because we can. Humans create solutions, adapt to circumstances, and face the impossible without surrendering. That is why the child exists, and that is why humanity will always be extraordinary." As the days turned into weeks, the child's presence became a source of stability and inspiration. It influenced energy systems, assisted in problem-solving, and even began to communicate through subtle psionic signals, sharing insights and understanding with both the queen and Elias. Its growth was a testament to the possibilities of cooperation between species, a living example of the power of adaptability and intelligence. The court, once fearful, now treated the child with respect. Scientists marveled at its abilities. Diplomats considered its implications for interstellar relations, and nobles began to recognize that fear could be replaced by understanding. The Dominion itself began to shift, moving toward a future where humans were no longer outsiders, but essential partners in shaping the galaxy. One day, as the throne ship approached the edge of Dominion space, the queen and Elias observed the stars in quiet contemplation. The child pulsed softly within her, a gentle reminder of the extraordinary journey they had undertaken together. "It is more than I imagined," the queen said softly. "Stronger, wiser, more aware. And yet, it still carries a part of humanity within it. The courage, the unpredictability, the ability to endure." Elias smiled faintly. "Yes, that is humanity. Not the strongest, not the most powerful, but the most persistent. We face challenges that others cannot imagine, and survive them, and sometimes, we create miracles without even knowing it. This child is one such miracle." The queen regarded him, her expression a mixture of awe and understanding. "You have shown me that humans are not fragile. They are remarkable. And together we can guide this child to fulfill its potential. The galaxy may never understand it fully, but it will feel the impact." Elias nodded. "It is only the beginning. The child will grow, learn, and influence the future in ways no one can yet predict. But with our guidance, it will choose wisely, act courageously, and endure just as humans always do." The throne ship continued its silent journey through the stars, carrying with it the promise of a new era. Humanity, once considered fragile and insignificant, had proven its worth. The hybrid consciousness, a living symbol of unity and potential, represented the best of both species, and the queen, guided by wisdom and newfound respect for the human spirit, recognized that the future of the Dominion, and perhaps the galaxy, was intertwined with the courage, ingenuity, and resilience of humanity. In the quiet of the observation chamber, the Queen turned to Elias, her eyes reflecting the distant light of the stars. "Why do you look at me like that?" "Human," he smiled, a quiet, confident smile. The child pulsed softly within her, a living rhythm that mirrored their combined hopes and determination. And as the throne ship drifted further into the vast expanse of space, the future awaited, a future shaped by courage, understanding, and the enduring power of humanity. The galaxy would never be the same.